Hello, my gays and weebs. This season has a lot of amazing shows, and One Direct Priority has been my favorite so far. I'm planning to make a video on the show at large once the finale airs, but before that I want to talk about the recent episode and how it took the step a lot of us hoped it would and how the show handles its transgender representation. There will be spoilers ahead if you're not caught up. I'm not going to go into any big plot details, but I will be discussing one of the main characters' arcs so far and events in the most recent episode, so if you're not caught up and spoilers bother you, consider this your excuse to go binge. Also, like most of my video essays, I'm going to be using both visuals from the show and footage of me in cosplay to avoid using too much from the show and getting claimed. And one more disclaimer, I am a cisgender lesbian. There are people close to me who are trans, and I try to do everything I can to educate myself on the transgender experience so I can better support them, but of course I will never fully understand what they have gone through or are going through. I'm going to focus on how I feel the show is portraying the trans characters as someone who is in the LGBT community, but there is an extent to my understanding and knowledge, and I recognize that. I also have learned from my kite video that when I talk about this subject, a bunch of bigots get pissed off, and to that I say bring it. Because again, whatever shit people want to say to me online in my comment section is nothing compared to what trans and non-binary people have to go through in their real personal lives every day. Okay, now that that's out of the way, let's get into this. I almost made a video on this after Momo's first episode, but I'm glad I held off because up until now, everything has mostly been subtextual. However, episode 10, which aired the day I'm writing the script for this video, has not only gone further with Momo's character, expressing her experience as a trans girl and actually saying she is trans and not just implying it, but the show has also given us another trans character and, actually have him say that he's trans. And because episode 10 was amazing, but also ended by stabbing us viewers repeatedly, I'd like to focus on the sweet and positive aspects of the episode so I'm able to get through this week without losing my mind in fear and anticipation for episode 11. I'm gonna backtrack to Momo's first episode though. Like the rest of the girls, before joining the group we get to see a bit of her on her own and what she's dealing with and fighting for, and then how she fits into our quartet of depressed gals. Several times in the episode her gender is called into question. This happens the most directly when fighting one of the manifestations of the trauma of one of the girls from the eggs. I'm realizing that if you haven't watched the show, that sounds like gibberish. So very quick rundown. These are Wonder Eggs, and when they're cracked in the alternate reality that our MCs go to when they're asleep, a girl who killed herself comes out of the egg, and the world proceeds to throw manifestations of the trauma that caused her to take her own life at her, and then, by extension, the main characters. The monsters try to kill the girl, and the main characters have to kill them first, therefore giving the girls the closure they need so they can move forward. And if the main characters do this enough times, they'll be able to save someone close to them who also took their own life. The girl Momo was trying to save was her best friend, who told her that she loved her. Momo, unsure of how to handle the situation, rejected her. Since then, Momo has blamed herself for her friend's death. More than once, we have seen the monsters Momo fight call her a boy. I think this is part of how they work and the trauma that they feed on. While they aren't manifestations of Momo's trauma and instead of the other girls, we do see them prey on the insecurities and what they deem of as weaknesses of the Wonder Egg crew. This is telling because in both her first episode and in episode 10, it's as she's telling these monsters that she's a girl and proving to them that they cannot waver her assurance in who she is, that she's able to beat them. I actually think it's important that such a similar scene happens twice, so let's put a pin in that for later. In Momo's introduction, when she's talking to one of the egg girls, she introduces herself with the male pronoun boku. Later, when she's introducing herself to Ai, she almost does the same, but then corrects herself and uses what she actually identifies with. I think the anime does this on purpose to show us that despite it not being correct, she's used to being referred to as a boy and having to do so. It's further proof that she is trans, and instead of invalidating her gender, I think the meaning behind the use of language is to show us that she's still hesitant and unused to others recognizing her for her real gender, even though it is what she wants. Even as the show presents her as a girl, other characters are constantly thinking that she's a boy or noticing her more masculine qualities before her feminine ones. This is painful for her, and it's also why she gets so happy when Ai doesn't do this. I think it's a good example on the positive force that Ai has on the other girls because she's able to see them for who they are and offer the solace that they need. So when Momo asks what Ai sees when she looks at her and Ai says a girl, she is offering Momo a place in the group where she will not be invalidated and instead be seen as herself. The show makes a point to constantly display how girls are attracted to Momo. Myself and some other viewers initially wondered if this meant that she was also going to be the show's resident sapphic, but as the show continued, I didn't get the implication that these confession scenes were supposed to be positive, or even be part of the show's LGBT representation. Haruka is the first girl to confess to Momo, and the moment isn't something that Momo looks back on as romantic. When describing it, it seems to directly conflict with Haruka's earlier insistence that she sees Momo as a girl. To Momo, at least. We don't get Haruka's side, but I think for Momo, it's hard for her to recognize that the girls who like her might be gay, and instead think that when they say they don't care that she's a girl, they mean that they like her in the same way they would like a boy. This understandably makes her uncomfortable, and it's hard for her not to see these declarations as invalidating her gender, whether or not that is the intent of the girls confessing to her. I think it's important to note that when it's explained to Karu, his reaction is to call Haruka a lesbian, which I don't think is vocabulary that Momo ever used for the situation. And the fact that this scene comes in the same episode of her being asked out by a boy who thinks she's a boy isn't on accident. I think it further pushes the idea to her as well as the viewers that relationships don't have to follow the heterosexual mold. And maybe that's not what Momo wants, because she's probably straight considering we've only ever seen her be attracted to guys. But the detail does emphasize that girls liking her doesn't make her any less of a girl. And now that we've gotten to Karu, remember the pin I put in the paralleling scenes earlier? Yeah, let's take that out and talk about the fight in episode 10. A lot of the girls that Momo saves are victims of sexual assault. For Karu in particular, I think this plot was used because of how often transgender men and women are sexually assaulted. This isn't something that's talked about nearly enough, especially in media, and I think that the show is trying to subtly broach the topic by not only having this be his backstory, but having Momo always be the ones to fight against the trauma monsters that represent, the R word that YouTube doesn't want me to say. I really like Karu as a character, and I think that meeting someone like him was necessary for Momo's arc. Like in the first episode, we see the moment that she defeats his abuser be the moment that she tells this monster that Karu is a boy and she is a girl. Invalidating both of their genders, she's able to destroy the trauma monster. Again, like in her first episode, we then go to her and the person she saved by the train tracks. Karu admits that he likes her, but the difference in this scene and the scene before is that his feelings are because she's a girl, not in spite of that. Also, there's the fact that for the first time, the person confessing to her is someone that she might actually feel the same way about. The kiss is exactly the same. It's fleeting and in the moment before this person is about to disappear and move forward. Only the first time Momo looks exhausted because this girl liking her feels the same way that Haruka did. Here, it's different. She turns red and smiles and shushes panic, and oh god, I loved Panic so much. I'm still crying. This is the first time that someone who likes her is someone she likes, and it's what she wanted this whole time. It's beautiful and heartwarming, and I think this moment could only come from someone like Karu who truly understands her. Also, color symbolism. The scenes with Momo and Karu make use of the colors of the trans flag. It's on Karu's jacket that he later gives to her, possibly representing him passing on his assurance in himself to her. It's also in the lights behind them when he first tells her that he's a boy, and it's on her bra/undershirt, I'm not really sure what to call this, in the moment of her ripping away her collared shirt and embracing and expressing her gender in defiance of the trauma monster. I just thought this was cool. The show does a lot with colors, and it's the little attentions to detail that really proves how much goes into every episode of this. Wonder Egg Priority is a really amazing show, and if its finale is as good as the lead up, I think it'll be an instant classic. There are so many other elements that it goes into, and I think I could make hours worth of videos dissecting it, but for now I'm just gonna enjoy watching, and I hope you guys are as well. You can let me know what you think in the comments, and if you're trans and think I maybe missed the mark on some things, please let me know, because again, there's only so much of this that I can speak on as a cis woman. But that's all for now. Thank you guys for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Well, I won't see you, you'll see me, because that's how this works. Bye.